All right. I am super hyped for this episode today. Cole Newell, CN pitching. How's it going, brother?
Hey, it's going pretty good. I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, like I said, I had to get you on. I seen you all over
hmm
Instagram. You're blowing up everywhere, like with your rankings of different pitchers, different
hmm
pitch types, and things of that nature. I had to get you on the pod. Before we jump into all of that, like how was your Thanksgiving? I know we just wrapped up like Thanksgiving like a week and all that kind of stuff. But like, did you have a good holiday?
Yeah, I had a great holiday. I'm down here in Florida, so I'm not getting. We got a little bit of a brisk air, but it's not terrible. So you're still having still able to wear some shorts. Ate a lot of food, some time with my family. So we had a really good holiday, and then of course it just rolled into a nice long weekend. So I can't complain. How about yourself?
It's good. So you speak
Good,
of the
good.
nice weather and shorts and all that kind of stuff. I'm here in the
Yeah,
Midwest, which I know you're originally from,
yeah.
Kansas area. I'm here in
hmm
Wisconsin.
Ooh.
I grew, yeah, it was snowing. Like, it's been like kind of like flurries, I guess, over the last couple of days here and stuff.
hmm
And yeah, no, like I'm jealous. Like I talked to guys who were training in Arizona, and
Yep.
they're like, yeah, it's beautiful weather. They're outside
hmm
with their sunglasses and shorts on, and I'm like, dude, it's like 23 degrees out here, 30 degrees out here, and it's just gonna get a ton colder. So
Yeah, not
I
good.
don't know.
I don't miss it. I'll tell you that. I don't miss it at all. And it sounds like kind of how it started a little early. The winter.
Yeah,
It might be a rough one for the Midwest this year.
yeah, and I'm from California originally, so
Ooh, yeah,
why when I look at my sisters and my family and like whatever they're posting on like social media, the nice weather, I'm like,
yep.
man, like did I
Mm.
did I make the right choice?
Mm. That is
But
true. That is
then I
true.
look
Now,
on then I look on Zillow and in
yeah.
the housing market, and I'm like,
Oh,
yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
I'll pass. Right.
Yeah, no,
Your
for
money's
sure,
going a
for
lot
sure.
further in Wisconsin.
At 100%, 100%. So where did the idea of CN pitching start? Let's jump right into that because
Okay.
you
Okay.
mentioned before we jumped on here that you're not used to showing your face, and people are kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, that's what Cole looks like. That's the identity behind all the stuff that you're posting. So that we can kind of show who you are and
Yeah.
stuff. So where did the whole idea of CN pitching come back? What is your story? I guess we'll start with that.
Yeah, so originally from Kansas City area, I grew up on
Mhm.
the Kansas side. I played college baseball for 4 years at a Division II school in the middle of Kansas, and we all have that day where the playing days are over. So I
Yeah,
really wanted to stay into the game, and I kind of had an interest in coaching, and I always kind of wanted to share what I've learned throughout my career, and I started getting like I actually stepped away and even like barely watched any games
hmm,
after college. Just kind of focused on working a little bit, and then I started the page of seeing pitching. And the funny story is, I started because I wanted to get back into the game and
hmm,
share what my knowledge was. Did I think it was going to grow past 1,000 people? Probably I didn't.
yeah,
I actually started it, and then I was like, oh, this is a good way to get a coaching job, is like have a little thumbnail of my ideas,
sure.
my philosophy. So that actually got me my first varsity pitching coaching job in the Kansas City area. So I was like, here's my page, and I printed off a few of my ideas. So
Yeah,
that was a cool way, and that's why a lot of people ask me like, oh, what do I need to do with social media? I'm like, it's a great portfolio. So
for real, for sure.
that's kind of how it started, and then as time kind of progressed and my ideas, I put them on there. I studied a little bit of graphic design in college, so I knew I could make some pretty cool stuff.
Mhm.
If you ever have time, there's a lot of posts on seeing pitching. If you go to the very old stuff, it's bad. It's really bad. But over the time, it evolved, and I knew there was kind of a gap in the industry, or not really the industry, but in the baseball world around the changeup. So I really that was my bread and butter. That got me a college scholarship. Literally was the changeup. I was right-handed pitcher, and then as my knowledge for it grew, and how I was taught it by many different people throughout my career, I decided I'm gonna just study it and harp on it
Yeah.
hard. And then over time it grew, and here we are. I mean, never would have imagined it would get to this point at all. So it's been pretty cool.
That's funny you say that because like I've gone back and like I've only done this podcast for about a year now. I've
hmm
gone back and listened to like my first episodes, and I'm sure
hmm
people can do this who do YouTube or podcasting. You go back to that original when you started, and you just like,
Yep.
oh my, it's so bad, and then you look
Yeah.
back to kind of where you've progressed. And it's cool because they're always evolving as,
Hmm.
creatives, and like you're always trying to get better and better yourself. Because if not, then you're really, what's the
Hmm.
point if you're not trying to get better? So it's funny that
Exactly.
you say that because I feel the same way.
Hmm.
And like I've only done this podcast for about a year now. It'll be a year and a couple weeks, and like I've had major leaguers on, high draft picks on, top prospects on, and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
like I had dreams and ambitions like when I started it, but like I never realized how far it would take, and like where I
Yeah.
could still go even further. And it's been so
Hmm.
cool. Like you spoke of like how like it started off small, and you never imagined it to be this big. What is maybe like this one like pinch me moment that you've had since you started this page where you're like, oh wow, like maybe someone reached out to you, or maybe like major leaguers like, hey, like let's collab or something like that. Like what is like
Yeah.
been one moment you're like, wow, I never thought this would happen.
Man, that's a tough one. I think when it really started for me, of like maybe I am putting some good stuff out there. I think it
Okay.
was, man, it might have been like 2019, maybe early. It might have been like 2020. Yeah, I think Marcus Stroman reposted me a few
Hmm.
times, and I was like, dang, that's
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 sick.
pretty cool. Like I watched him
Yeah.
as a kid, and you start to like see those guys, and then um, when you start going through, or you'll see like in your notifications that someone followed you and
Hmm.
it was somebody you grew up watching, or when Pedro Martinez liked one of my posts, I literally told my wife and freaked out because Pedro's like a god to me. So
Yeah.
that was a really cool thing to see. Was and be able to be noticed by guys who are at the highest level doing this stuff. So those are a few pinch me moments. I feel like I have them every single day, to be completely honest with you, and how far seeing pitching has come, and it's been a really humbling experience for somebody who doesn't have any pro experience. And sometimes you kind of like, man, would that help me propel, or does that help me not having that experience? Uh,
Yeah.
so so that's always been a pinch me moment, is just when guys reach out and like, hey, what do you think of this? Or midweek bullpens with guys who are starting, in the big leagues, and so it's been a pretty wild ride for so far.
You had mentioned that you done some live bullpens with some pitchers and stuff like that. Who's maybe been some guys that you pitched with? Like who have you pitched with, or thrown bullpens with?
So as far as a lot of the stuff, I mean, to believe it or not, like in this day and age, has all been like over social media. So it's been pretty
Okay.
wild. So a lot of guys will send me their videos and so forth. Like and a lot of the time I just requested, I'm like, hey, send me what your changeup look like, and then so
Yeah,
we'll banter it. I think like Jack Leiter sent me his changeup, Lance
that's
McCullers
cool.
Jr. Yeah, so I had a few guys send me a few other stuff. Zach Plesac, we always shoot the crap with him a little bit, and so it's a lot of guys that, I mean, most of the time they don't, these guys are like kind of like stay pretty reserved,
Yeah.
so that they gotta open up to you. But there's been a lot of college kids will send me their videos, and then of course down here in Northwest Florida, we have, there's a facility I work with, and we go in there and we get after it. And I think that's the biggest thing, is like just is instilling in the high school and college kids down here is work, man. Because coming in here and joking around with your buddies, or joking around with me,
Hmm.
you can do that for a little bit, but over time, like that's the difference you see in between, especially major leaguers and guys who are big minor league pitchers,
Yeah.
successful ones too. They're serious once they get in there. So that's a big thing, and I try to tell them that over and over.
Yeah, like I said, that would be like a pinch yourself moment. Just the fact that you
Yeah,
have Lance McCullers sending you
yeah,
pictures or videos of his pitches and be like, hey, like let me know what you think, because that's incredible. Like he's a
yeah.
stud. Like he's probably one of
Lance
the
is the
better
man.
pitchers out there.
Yeah,
Like he's pretty sick, and
yeah,
just to be able to have that, like wow, like that's pretty cool. Like
yeah,
that's sick.
yeah. We've built a pretty good relationship. And I mean, to be honest, I'm not going to take any credit for what this
Hmm.
guy, because he's an absolute animal
For
up
real.
there. And I did put him at 10 on the changeup list. So Lance, we'll get you a little higher in
Yeah.
20 in
Did he
23s.
did he say anything about that? Because I saw that on there. I don't want to mention it, but since you brought it up,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe send him a little DM, be like, hey, next year maybe we'll get you a little top five, maybe top three.
Hey, I told him, I was like, you throw that 20% time, it's 100, it's number one guaranteed. So no, no, it's pretty funny. We were joking around with each other a little bit, and nobody goes in there. I mean, I think
Yeah.
anytime you get recognition, you really appreciate it, and they're all humble guys. So
Hmm.
the list, I did a ton of research, so it wasn't like I just like, oh, I like that number, nah, and throw them in there 10, 8, whatever. So there's a lot of studying and making sure that, especially on the changeups, there's no leeway on those.
Yeah.
I gotta earn my credibility on the changeup. So that one, that was a really fun list for me to make. And I was really torn. The top three were tough. Top two could have gone either way, Sandy or Devin. So one thing with Devin, it's another one of my guys. It was pretty cool. He sent me one of his changeup in the off season in the bullpen, and I was like, dude, that's out of control. So it's a whole nother level. So it makes sense why he's number one. But I didn't get any pushback. I didn't miss out a few guys on the list, but you only get 10, so it's a tough one. It's tough. I knew I was gonna get pushback, but
yeah,
you roll with the punches.
Exactly. And Devin Williams, like I live here in Wisconsin, so I'm a big Brewers fan.
Yeah.
They're my NL team. What
Mm-hmm.
makes him so nasty? And I would love to get him on the podcast. So I might clip this and tag him. But what makes him so good as a pitcher?
So a lot of people know Devin for his changeup, but a lot of people forget his fastball. I think his batting average is under 100 this year. I'm pretty sure it was like a .9 batting average. It was like .09. So it was that really sets up his changeup super well. I think he throws his changeup nearly 50% of the time, over 50% of the time. So you get either a really high efficient fastball where you're getting literally one of the toughest pitches to hit probably in the last 20, 25 years. So I think, especially with the changeup, I've been posting a ton on just the tilt of the spin and spinning like a UFO and seeing just how much that can affect the movement of the ball. And so we see that how it literally just will spin there midair and drop.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a trend we're starting to see with the changeups is guys are having a hard time with as spin rates start to increase, the spin rates on the changeups are increasing. And by doing that, your ball is going to be a little bit harder unless you start to tilt the spin. So that's the biggest thing is as long as it's spinning here and not here. And that's most of the guys that come in and work with me down here in Florida is their changeups like flat. It's because it's just spinning. It's got too much backspin. So as the rates continue to increase and being a metric that's measured by, all 30 organizations, you're going to see guys throwing harder changeups and it's harder for it to move. So that's what makes Devin so good is just, his stuff's, it's like I think it's 3 o'clock spin and then observed at 3:15. So the way it affects and interacts with the air, it just tilts a little more as it gets to home plate. So that's why the guy spins it at nearly almost 3,000 RPMs and is able to get it at 3 o'clock spin for a righty. So that makes him extremely dangerous.
Yeah, and as Brewer fans, we love him. Like, when Hader left, everyone's freaking out and stuff like that. But like the fact that we have a legitimate closer in Devin Williams, who's just a stud. He's an absolute stud. So shout out Devin Williams. We'd love to get him on the pod. Maybe I'll have to tag him in this again. Like I said, see what we can do. Get him on. I would love to have him on, especially. For sure. If you can get him on, that'd be huge. You mentioned like kind of like the hate you were kind of getting, or not maybe hate, but maybe some people just criticizing the choices that you make. And like when you post a lot of stuff, especially with baseball and sports in general, everyone's just so divided about things.
Right.
Like, do you ever get like any like messages or people like criticizing your ideas or be like, hey, like so and so really like he's not even that good or stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a good question because you do as the I don't try to measure things by followers or reach of my posts, but my stuff gets seen by a lot of people and everybody's entitled to their own opinion. That's 100% respect that and sometimes you get a few guys that or anybody in general will chime in. I don't necessarily get. It's mainly in the comments of posts. I very rarely get any nasty stuff in my DMs. Nobody comes in and is like, they curse me out. I never get anything along those lines, which I'm extremely humbled and grateful that I don't have to deal with any of that. But I might get it after this video. But but it's mainly in the comments. Yeah, I think it's mainly in the comments. I think because people are scrolling and they're like, oh, what's this guy saying? It's another know-it-all. And so I've learned over the time not to just comment back and just keep rolling. But I've been pretty fortunate. I don't get a ton of hate, and I really appreciate that. That just means I got a really good community around me,
Hmm.
and a really good following because we. I think the biggest thing for me is being able to have and communicate with ages whoever whatever the parents
Hmm.
allow their kid on social media to 50, 60 year olds that are following me on social media
Yeah.
is being able to communicate. And if you disagree with my methodology, then that's totally fine. I respect that. But if you've seen some of my earlier stuff, I've evolved. So I
Yeah.
think that's one thing you have to do as a especially in the coaching world is evolve and roll with the game because it's changing so quickly.
No, for sure. And you mentioned like
Mm-hmm.
your earlier stuff, and we kind of touched on that before. But like I said, the process of evolving as
Mm-hmm.
thinkers in sports or creators in coaching, it's so important.
Yep.
So why the changeup? I mean, everybody. I feel like I've talked to guys who throw in triple digits, and I feel like everyone kind of wants to throw like high nineties. You want to hit triple digits, and that's cool and all that kind of stuff. But why the changeup? Why is that so important to you? Like, yes, like you pride yourself on like your knowledge of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a pitch that so when I was younger, I threw the fastball and I was like, oh, I got to change it, but I never threw it. And then I had like a slurve I learned from like, I think it was like MLB 2K7 or something ridiculous. And so over time, I was like, I really wanted to change up. I was a huge Pedro Martinez and Cole
Hmm.
Hamels fan growing up. So I really wanted to kind of like master a pitch that looked like a fastball until it was gone. And as I started to learn more and throw it, I was like, okay. And then someone would ask me, how'd you throw that? And I'd be like, I do this or I do that. And here's my fingers, here's the grip. And I really liked just the idea of a ball looking like a fastball until the last second, and that a pitching coach, or well, now when I was coming up, they didn't have machines that could replicate arsenals, but pitching coach not going to go up there and throw a changeup. How are they going to do
Right.
this? So I thought like, that's an advantage for me up there in the bump. And so that caught my attention. I started posting about it. I think I started the page in like 2018, and people liked it and like, oh, I love this. Just help me throw a changeup. I'm like, cool. Maybe I just talk about changeups, and then that's all I did. And I really started to grow and love into like the pitch design world, and be able to like, okay, if I switch the ball this direction, what's going to happen? Rather than diving into the mechanics of pitching and figure out can I throw a million miles an hour. The game's evolving, and you see a lot of guys throw hard, but it's a direct correlation with how hard they work in off season, a little bit of genetics and so forth. But the idea of like a pitch, like a changeup, those are teachable pitches. A fastball at
Hmm.
101, I mean, let's be honest, it's pretty God given talent.
Yeah. Some
So
have it, some don't.
yeah, so for me to be another guy on there that's like, get into this leg and then throw, a million miles an hour, I just didn't want to get lost in the crowd. So I was like, well, one way to stand out and really believe in how I enjoy pitching, it's pitching. It's changing speeds and changing the hitter's timing and making the ball do some crazy things, Roy Halladay stuff. Like
Yeah.
those were things that really grabbed my attention growing up. So that's where it started, and then over time, I just did more research on it, found the origins of the changeup, and I read. I don't have the book in front of me, but it's like the history of the K, or I probably botched it, but I read that and read about you know uh, the changeup in there and the slider and so forth. So over time, it's changed, but I feel like the my idea of the changeup has really stayed pretty consistent over the last few years, and I probably have dug a little too deep into it for some people, but a lot of new people that come in and like, oh, this is good stuff, and then
Yeah.
they get a changeup, and I've gotten thousands of messages of people like, you help my changeup, and so I'm gonna keep talking about it. That's the goal,
Do you
just
think that's, yeah.
helping people.
No, for sure. Do you think that's kind of like a lost art, just like the change, or not even a lost art, but just maybe something that's underutilized? You talked about like Lance McCullers not hitting like that 20%. Like, do you think pitchers should be throwing more change ups versus like, other pitches? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, there's no like specific percentage or anything that a pitcher should hit as far as like, oh,
Hmm.
everybody should throw it 25% of the time. But you do see kind of that lost art of more of like feel. But I
Mm.
think you're starting to see it come back, where a lot of guys that are like the super successful ones are starting to get feel for their pitches. And you saw like Sandy come into the league throwing 7% changeups, and then that was his number one used pitch this in 2022 to win the Cy Young. So is there a correlation there? There might be, but I think guys are just trying to figure out to get guys are hitting the ball pretty far and
Yeah.
and launching it, and the changeup kind of helps eliminate that. Now you're going to get those people that are like, yeah, unless you leave it right down the middle. Okay,
Yeah.
well, you leave a
Any
fastball
pitch.
down the middle. Yeah,
Yeah.
leave a curveball down the middle. It's gonna get crushed, especially at
Yeah.
the higher level you go. So, but I do see a little bit of like a correlation between guys that throw it a lot. They throw it pretty slow compared to their fastball, and they're really successful pitchers. Now, are they like a Jamie Moyer, where it's like extremely slow? No, because the average fastball is like 95, so
Yeah.
it's going to be a high 80s changeup, and so I see a little bit of a turn in the world of baseball, and people wanting to throw stuff that spins a lot better and that gets better horizontal, better vertical. You're starting to see that trend, especially with the new technology coming out. The days of going into a facility and all you see is a radar gun are starting to kind of dwindle down, and I think that's a good thing for the game because it's fun watching some balls move. Like literally someone just snapped their finger and it's gone. Those are fun to watch. So yeah, I think we're starting to see a little bit of a trend, but I think the lost art of it is hopefully it's coming back. I think so because guys are spinning it really really hard and we're able to measure it. But I mean that's my number one thing for all my pro guys is don't more. That's the biggest
Yeah.
thing. So that might just be my bias on it.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're happy that is coming back, right? Because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we all love watching, 98, 99, and like
Yeah.
it was a time when it was just like guys like maybe Chapman or like
Yeah.
not very many were hitting. Like now it's more often you see guys throwing
Yeah.
high gas and stuff. Just being able to like throw a good changeup or anything off speed, just kind of
Mm-hmm.
it is something that's kind of cool to see. Like you talk about the ball movement. And like shout out to like Pitching Ninja who has like all these
Yeah.
crazy videos and like you see this like witchcraft like the ball's going
Mm-hmm.
one way and then it just like completely just changes directions or drops down. Like it's incredible. And that's what I
Mm-hmm.
love watching that kind of stuff. I'd rather watch that than see a guy touch like triple digits.
Yeah. I think over the course of like pitching development, there was a time where throwing, let's say touching 90 and not even caring where the ball went
Mm-hmm.
became kind of an issue. And guys were trying to like maximize as much as and tensing their bodies up and becoming, more injury prone over their young career. And I think that kind of eliminated the art of pitching and eliminated them kind of manipulating with some feels and some grips. I've had people that yell at me for like, why would you want to have a catch session of experimenting with
Yeah.
grips? And I'm like, well, do you have a good changeup now or a good slider? And they're like, well, no.
Yeah.
Then what you're doing currently is not working. So stop trying to like master the way it's not working. So I'm a big kind of experimentation guy when it comes to even with mechanics or pitch grips, pitch feels, whatever the case may be. But that there was a time and guys were throwing. I mean, it was 20 feet up in the net in a facility, and I saw a lot, especially in certain areas. I saw a lot of those guys get hurt,
Mm.
unfortunately. But I'm hoping we're seeing that little bit of that turn in the pitch design era.
Yeah, for sure. And you hear, and like maybe this is just my non-baseball mind thinking, but like I hear stories of guys who are like the announcers would be like, let's say something along the lines of he went from being a thrower to a pitcher, maybe like a high draft prospect who was throwing really hard, and then he had to change all of his mechanics, and now they call him he
Mm-hmm.
went from throwing to to pitching. Is that kind of like the same concept you're talking about, or
Yeah, I
maybe
would
I'm
say
just
it's just, yeah, no, it's a similar concept for
okay?
sure. It's you light up the radar gun, people are gonna be like, "Ooh, wow, that's nice," but
Yeah.
if you, I mean, becoming a pitcher, it could be a mix of things. It could be control. It could be more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, more sound body movements for, lesser risk of injury. I mean, for goodness sakes, we're throwing overhead. So it's going to
Yeah.
be, it's going to be a tough thing on the body. But I mean, I would say that's a fair statement.
Yeah, no, for sure. Good. I'm just thinking because I hear them all the time. And I'm like, what does that really mean? You know, they go from
Yeah.
a thrower to another, a pitcher. Maybe kind of another kind of random question. And again, this is how my brain thinks. But does any of the pro guys ever talk to you about like the changing of the ball? Because like we talk about hitters, they'll hit a ball and it's launched and it barely goes anywhere, and then like they looks like it's going to be a routine pop up and it's like in the stands. Like so, we always talk about like on the pitching hitting side, but on the pitching side like how does that affect like whether it's change ups or whatever it may be? Like, did the guys ever talk to you about that?
I get a few comments here and there. I think you can almost as much baseball as a lot. I mean, I watch a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
You can see where there's in certain games where a guy just continues to just throwing a ball out. Like this one doesn't feel good. This one
Yeah,
feels horrible. I don't like that. And I think people that haven't been on the field or have felt a baseball or understand that each one is built a little bit different,
mm-hmm.
and they all don't feel the same. So when people complain about pitchers throwing the ball in, it's like this one feels like crap. Like it really does
Yeah,
not feel good. So there's no reason to risk a bad pitch or I mean, if the ball's probably gonna go in the dirt anyway, so might as well eliminate me putting the bullet on the
yeah,
arm and throw it in. So especially if you don't have a good grip on it. But I mean, you do hear that the ball does change a little bit. I wouldn't say like the direct result is like because this ball was juiced or
yeah,
I would 95% of the times the guys would admit it was a bad pitch. So there are times where there's an instance where that ball should not have been a double. It should have been more of a single. So you get it here and there, but most of those guys I feel like keep that to themselves. They start to trust me a little bit more now, so I get a
yeah,
little more information. But I would never like leak anything
yeah,
or for
yeah.
those guys. But no, I mean the biggest change I see is more of like the minor league level. Is like
Mm,
sometimes they'll bring in minor league baseballs or major league baseballs depending on like a rehab guy, whatever the case may be. So you see a little bit of that. That there's a minor league ball in or a major league ball, so they're a tad different. But other than that, I mean, most of the guys kind of keep that stuff to themselves. I know what was it Bassett for the Mets kind of mouthed off this year a little bit about it, but never heard from that again. So
yeah.
I'm sure the
Yeah.
league said something to him.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, Manfred was quick to let him
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Him and his infinite wisdom.
Yeah.
So you talked about coaching in high school guys and stuff like that. In regards to like high schoolers, maybe what is like the number one question they ask you, like for pitchers who want to get better at what they do? Like, what is like the number one question high school athletes ask you?
And I think the big thing, aside from like the development of like I want to throw harder, a lot of questions I get is like how do I get recruited? Another one would be the changeup. I want a good changeup, or how can I throw a good breaking ball? Those are a few questions I get, but it's like well, guys that want to go play at the next level. I mean,
Yeah.
the big question is like how can I get recruited? How can I get seen? And the recruiting world is so wild right now, way different than when I was coming up, a decade ago. It's it's pretty stressful for those high school kids. But I mean, in the program that I write, it is like a lot of those change up. I just did a post like change up catch. So it's like you want to get a better change up. Let's go play with it. Let's go experiment. Let's go see. Oh, you don't like pronating your arm. Let's do this with your fingers. So it does that. That's kind of an easier question to answer for me. But the
Yeah,
the recruiting process, man,
that's
it's
tough.
it's tough, especially the transfer portal. It becomes a really tough uh, world for these high school ball players now.
Yeah, it's funny because I was talking to a guy, Antonio Menendez on the Rays.
Mm-hmm.
He went from no offers, no college offers to like over 30 in like a one week period of time. Like he was nobody, and then they came to watch his teammate, and they ended up watching him, and they're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like we somehow missed this guy, and he
Yep.
had over like 30 D1 offers, and he was like, I went from like I don't know if I'm going to college to I don't know where I'm going to go to college. It's
Yeah.
so the whole transfer, the whole like that I have that's just above my head. Like all
Mm-hmm.
the things that kind of go into that. What
Yeah.
about like what? Go ahead.
No, I mean the biggest thing is what I teach those guys is when you get an opportunity, you got to run with it because
Yeah.
you don't get very many of them, and for a guy like pitchers, I mean you get maybe once a week. So if someone wants to come out there and watch you, let them know when you're pitching, let the coach and staff know, get video. That's the biggest thing for guys. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
getting the most. Oh, I had a bad game and I had scouts there. It's like well, you're not going to get an offer. unless you gotta be take, the bull
Proactive
by the
too.
bull. Yeah, take the bull by the horns and execute and really push yourself. So that's a big thing in the recruitment world. It's tough.
Yeah, no, for sure. What about like pro athletes? I mean, obviously, you kind of mentioned that you throw a lot of things. What question was like maybe the number one question for you? I guess would it be like change up and how to like improve? Like is that what they normally talk to
Yeah,
you about?
yeah. It's mostly the changeup. A lot of like pitch design. That's stuff I really enjoy. So it's not as much. Those guys are pretty like once you're there. I mean, those guys are already they
Yeah.
already throw hard. So it's like okay, well you're already throwing 95, 96.
Hmm.
Now let's get you something that can
Yeah.
throw off the hitter. So I would say 90% of the time it's change up questions and pitch design and let's get you a slider, let's get you a cutter. Those are a lot of things I get, and those are the stuff that like drives me to continue to post on social
Mm.
media is the pitch design stuff and how to make that ball do some crazy things because every guy's different and
Yeah.
every guy releases the ball a little bit different. So anytime you can get some technology that has that you know metrics or slow mo video, it's pretty wild to see things that you can do with the ball.
No, for sure. Do you talk to guys? I'm sure you do, like guys in the minors, because like a lot of my guests are minor leaguers and guys who obviously have been in the minors, and we kind of talk about that a lot. Who's maybe one guy like in the minors that like you're like hyped and you can't wait to see like them in the majors? Like they just maybe have like best changeup or they're just like somebody you're excited to like kind of like watch and
Yeah,
kind of buy early stock in.
yeah. We have down in Pensacola, Florida. We have the Wahoos. So the
Yeah,
Marlins Double A. They had a Yuri Perez there this year. He's pretty fun to
yeah.
watch. One of their other guys, Zach McCambly. He's one of my dudes. He's pretty solid too. We're getting him some nasty stuff. But
Mm.
it was fun watching those two guys this summer and be able to go out there and Yuri, I think, is like 6'8" or 6'10", like 100-mile-an-hour
Yeah,
fastball.
he's
Really
nasty.
good change, yeah, really good changeup. So it was really fun to kind of see those guys pitch. And of course, you got like your Kuma Rockers, your Jack
Hmm.
Lighters, Bobby Miller. Hopefully, he gets up there next year. You're able to see some of these guys that you watch like in the College World Series or just in college in general come up and be dynamic. So hopefully they can get their chance soon at the big league level, especially the Marlins guys that I've been able to watch. So it's those are some fun ones. Yuri Perez, I think he was the number one pitching prospect this year.
Yeah,
So it
he's
was
he's
cool.
pretty he's
Yeah,
nasty. Like I said, he's pretty
yeah,
good.
it was cool to watch him down here, and then I think he went to LA for the All Star Futures game. So that was
Hmm.
pretty cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like it's funny you said the Marlins guys because like I kind of joke around with a bunch of the guys. I've had a ton of Marlin guys on the podcast, and I have guys scheduled to come on the pod who are in the Marlins organization. So I guess I always kind of joke with them, say I'm like an unofficial Marlins podcast now because like I've
Yeah.
had so many other guys on. But I live about
Hmm.
40 minutes from their high A in Beloit, so
Yeah.
I'm not too far. So it's kind of I have that kind of connection and just talking to them, like I kind of meet their friends, and it just kind of goes that way.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you talk about like the two pitchers that you're talking about are in the
Yeah.
Marlins organization because like they have a pretty good organization.
Hmm. And be a reminder for those boy guys when they in the summer when you go from it's a single A from double A down here, it's a ball's gonna fly right out of your hands in this
Yeah,
humidity. So it's fun to kind of hear those guys' stories when they come down here and throwing in the humidity. It's a different beast from Wisconsin.
yeah, no, for sure. How far are you from their like spring training area?
Oh, it's pretty long way. I think it's
Oh,
like
okay,
8-10 hours. Yeah, we're up by like Alabama on the Gulf Coast side.
gotcha.
So yeah, so they did the whole reorg like the regions for the minor leagues.
Oh yeah,
So
like
this
the
used to be
realignment of all the
yeah,
yeah.
used to be the Twins, and then they got adopted by the Marlins. So it's been pretty cool to go out there and watch those guys.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, because I was trying. My plan is to go to Florida for
Hmm.
spring training, just because like I was gonna go out there, try to go to a couple different organizations,
Yeah.
get some in person interviews and stuff like that. So I was just curious to see like distance wise where you are in regards to them. I might have to get you on the podcast like once in a while just to kind of talk about some of these pitchers in the minors because like I said like
No.
that's I'm
Yeah.
I'm
Let me
super
know.
passionate about like the minor leagues like
Hmm.
the grind that they go through. That's why I call my
Oh yeah.
podcast the baseball grind because it's such a grind going from like some of them like 6 or 7 years in the minors. It's just the way it is. So like,
Hmm.
I might need to get you back on here. We can kind of break down a couple of different because I pitching I have no idea. Like it's right above my head. But you know, I might need to get you back on here a couple of times, you know, throughout the
Yeah,
season and stuff like that to kind of break it down.
let me know anytime, anytime.
For sure, for sure. All right. So let's end on this. Like you have the videos and stuff that you put out on Instagram. Like, what is the future for CN pitching? And obviously, is a facility too, right? And then is that
Yeah,
also, and
so
then you have like an online program.
yeah, so so there's a lot of different avenues I could go with the seeing pitching. I have my ebooks on there. The Changeup ebook. I just came out with the fastball force creation, which is just better spin rate on your fastball, and then
Mm-hmm.
I have the breaking ball ebook. So I really enjoyed writing those and be able to kind of throw out a little more secrets in there, and not give away everything in those books or even on social media.
Yeah.
But I do work out at a facility down here in Florida. It's we really enjoy just having a place to go and get some work in. And I think the biggest thing is be able to kind of get more metrics
Mm-hmm.
out there of guys I'm working with and help them get a little bit of recruitment. But seeing pitching, it's the online programs I try to shy away from a little bit because it's so tough, especially for time and be able to do like online lessons. Besides the pro guys, they're a little different cerebral. They can catch on a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
But for the younger guys, the high school, the college kids, a lot of them. I have a lot of the kids in the area down here. This area is it's hidden talent up here in the Panhandle of Florida. So no, it's been a lot of fun doing that. And I think I was thinking about doing a podcast and showing my face a little bit more on seeing pitching, but to touch on not showing my face a ton, I think it was really important for me to kind of build a brand and not necessarily build somebody that shows their face a ton and becomes like a talking head
Mm-hmm.
and a know-it-all, because I didn't want to show my face a ton. I think the only times people have seen my face might have been either podcast videos, a live interview I did once on IG Live, and then that's it. Unless people Google me or look me up, there's nothing else. There might be a photo in the ebooks, but it's something I really took a lot of pride in. It was just like building a brand of like seeing pitching. Okay, now like it's not Cole Newell, it's seeing pitching, and
Yeah.
I put my name on there strictly for coaching opportunities that I was getting some traction with at the pro level. So that's why I did that, and it helps. It's been pretty cool. And people were asking who's all at seeing pitching. I was like, all right, it's just a one man show, so let's
Yeah.
let's clear the air on that. But I think the direction will be continue to kind of do what I'm doing, but I want to showcase more of the technology side of baseball.
Love that. Love that. Well, hey, I do want to thank you for coming on, taking the
Yeah.
time. I appreciate it. Like I said, we're gonna have to do this again. Like I love
Mm-hmm.
talking baseball. I love talking anything really regarding baseball. So
Appreciate you for having me on here.
yeah,
It's fun to kind of like, you were talking about, talking some stuff and be able to just jump on and shoot
yeah.
it for a little bit. So that's always a blast.